This is Before the Build. I'm your host, Jake Fabish. In episode 1, I had the opportunity to sit down with Steve. Steve is a licensed architect here in Louisville, Kentucky. Steve's passion, professionalism, and love for Louisville and architecture in general are obvious. But what I love the most about Steve is his quiet confidence and his love for people. Steve is warm and thoughtful and careful. I think you're going to enjoy this conversation. Thanks for tuning in.
15-foot span. We've got 2 to 2.5 stories above to support.
Really?
And yeah, it's a little tricky.
That's a big load.
It is a big load. It's brick veneer also. And the client, I think a year or two ago, maybe refinished. The third floor is actually an attic space that they refinished.
Okay.
So it's got a 10 and 12 roof pitch, plenty of ceiling height space. And so now that they're habitating that third floor, that adds additional live loads and dead loads to the situation. And, it's not really an easy thing to try to hide a steel beam in a ceiling.
No, that's not.
Particularly on an exterior wall.
Right.
So that's what I've got on my agenda today.
Do they really want it to be fleshed out too?
I made that decision. I think it's important in the kitchen, the way it's being expanded, to have a consistent ceiling line. And not have a big bulkhead wrapped around a beam that's going to break up the space.
Yeah.
Even if it's just in the ceiling, because we can have the columns, no problem.
Yeah.
One's at an exterior wall and one's going to be in an interior wall, so that's not an issue. But we've got to. The engineer and I have to finalize what that beam size needs to be.
Oh yeah.
And I'm really hoping, because we didn't get into it a month ago, but I'm hoping we can do a W10 to a W12, which is 9 5/8 to 11 5/8 deep.
Okay.
They've got 2x10 framing on the second floor that allows me 6 to 7 inches of boxing out a coffered ceiling around the beam bottom. So we'll see.
See if that does the trick.
Yeah, and the bigger piece of this, it's one thing to throw a beam in there to do the job. The other piece is constructability.
Yeah.
Of lifting a 15 to 16 foot I-beam in place.
Right.
Shoring up the existing walls. Shoring up the existing floor on the second floor in order to get it in.
Do you have access to get the beam in, or do you have to? Is it you got to kind of snake the beam in? I feel like that's always the hardest part.
Yeah, good for you thinking about that. That's the other challenge. So they have an addition on that side of the house already. It's kind of a den, not mud room, but kind of a den. Used for office space and catch-all and kids' play area.
Yeah.
And so we're actually removing part of that.
Okay.
To expand this kitchen out. And we're going to have to deal with that bump out in order to get this beam in and around and behind it.
Really? So, and crane's probably not an option, huh?
Well, they've got the front yard's fully accessible from the main access road.
Okay.
And this is the logistic piece that I always just love to watch.
You don't want to be putting your hands on it?
No, but to the same point, though, the engineer and I try to give as much consideration to ease of installation as possible.
Yeah.
If you can build something up out of multiple pieces,
right,
in terms of a beam, like a flitch beam, that often works better for labor and maneuvering.
Right.
Because you're just layering pieces up one at a time. But when you have to bring in a big piece like this, potentially, it just opens up a whole different can of worms.
Have you got into the height of it yet? How high the beam has to be to carry the load?
Well, no, and that's I mentioned that I'm hoping that we can use anywhere from a W10, which is about a 10-inch deep beam,
right,
to a W12.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
Because that is up to my engineer to say the final say so.
Yeah.
And, we're going back and forth. Some of the ideas we had is, either we put it directly under the floor. Mm-hmm. So that's the simplest thing.
Yeah.
And then you have this big 10 or 12 inch bulkhead and you just do something with it and tie it into the ceiling, blend it in somehow. Or you get it up flush within the line of the wall and the center line of the wall on the brick veneer.
Yeah.
So now the beam is centered and you can carry both loads, and we can do some welding on different pieces. The third option is to have it on the exterior of the actual framed wall line.
Yeah.
So more centered on the brick veneer side.
Okay.
And then you've got some other accommodations on the interior of the beam to actually carry the loads.
Yeah.
That's probably the easiest thing. That's the second easiest option, is to install it to the exterior.
Yeah.
But there's other implications about fabrication and installation with that too.
Right. Right.
So all the considerations.
When this started, did they think they were going to get into the exterior envelope at all, or were they hoping to stay?
No, that was the intention originally.
Okay.
Was that we're going to blow out this wall and go this way.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
We got to hold all that load up. So
Yeah.
we got to do something there.
Yeah, yeah. This is fantastic. So the impetus behind we're calling this before the build, but I think that everything you're talking about is exactly kind of why I value guys like yourself so much, is guys that are doing all this before, like the too many projects you see where they get into it, then they're like, wait a minute, how are we gonna execute on this? What's gonna be the now what are we gonna do? And
right. And to expand on that, I like working in a team structure.
Yeah.
I like bringing the general contractor on as soon as possible. And in this particular situation, there is a guy involved, has been involved from day one. An engineer, interior designer is always good too. It's just not something I specialize in.
Right.
But to have everybody on board at the beginning of the concept inception.
Yeah.
So that there's feedback to the client about all the things that need to be considered.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, that's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the structural aspect, that requires some trained thinking and experience.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And in residential, most of the things that are happening are conventional and fall within code guidelines and can do the job based on the code book outline. But every once in a while, there's a unique situation where you need to bring in an engineer. Yeah.
So how do you think about that? I feel like that's one of the things in the design world, is knowing where the handoffs are. Like it's everybody can have an idea, but knowing what your lane is and kind of knowing. So for you, as you're thinking through, okay, you got your client, you're starting to design out stuff. What are some triggers for you to, like, okay, I'm going to hand off to an interior designer, I'm going to hand off to a structural engineer? How do you think through that in your design process?
Well, I think generally it's a gut feeling.
Yeah. Some practice.
Anytime steel needs to be involved,
right.
or any kind of structural beam that's carrying multiple floors or roof loads, I'm not licensed and qualified to make those judgment calls.
Yeah.
And we're talking about safety.
Right.
Right. And so that's number one. If I feel in conventional framing practices that something can be handled by a general contractor and their experienced framer, then we just call it out as specified by code mostly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But outside of that, you got to bring in the professionals when they're needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if that really answered your question. The knee jerk is if there is an exceptional span that needs structural consideration, then the engineer's engaged.
Right, right.
If it's traditional framing, then generally the builder set or the GC and framers and specialists here in town, in our region, can just fall in their lane and build things as prescribed typically.
Yeah. So if you were doing your elevator pitch to a potential client and you were thinking through, I feel like there's a lot of somewhat confusion in the industry, maybe not in the industry as much as in client perception. But you have all these terms. You have a GC, you have a builder, you have an interior designer, you have designers, you have architects, you have structural engineers. And for somebody just looking to get like I just want a project done, man. Like, can you do it or not? So for you, like, if you're going to give me your elevator pitch of what Steve brings to the table, like what's your lane? What's your thing?
Oh, well, simply put, my response is generally I bring the training, experience, and knowledge of a licensed architect to create good design solutions for a family's needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, yeah. So you see that like as like primarily like the coordination of details, or kind of like when you go to that client's house, what are you looking at? Like you're looking at the kind of myriad of the parts and pieces. Are you more looking at like lifestyle things? Like walk me through kind of how you approach that initial conversation with the client as you're thinking through like, hey, I understand houses. Now I need to take what I understand about houses and apply it to the best possible solution for this client. Kind of walk me through that process.
Okay. Well, when the relationship is agreed upon that we're a good fit, that what I like to do and what they need for me to do for them is a good fit, there's an initial consultation. And during that consultation, I'm listening to their program needs. What do they want to do? They want to expand their kitchen. They want a first floor master suite. They need a family room. They need a new garage with a guest office or suite above, those kind of things. Then we talk about budget a little bit and just their needs around that space. Like why are they making the decision to make this addition to their property? And that helps me start to formulate an approach of what might be suitable and feasible.
Yeah.
That last thing, the feasibility, is the very next step. Before I get into any kind of design creation of a solution for their situation, their needs, we have to understand if the property, particularly in an urban setting, is going to support the extra construction.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we have land development codes that regulate maximum build-outs on a site.
Yeah.
Surveys are involved and necessary because you have building setback lines, easements that occur on every property. And so you have to build within those limits along with the land development code of what you can build on the site. There's all kinds of restrictions and things and guidelines, and it's all for good reason. So that's the first step is to make sure that the project is feasible for their property.
Yeah, yeah.
Aside from budget and just what they want to do to get a project done.
Yeah.
So, after that point, if there's a green light, then we move into the next phase, and that is the initial concept. Now, that part is really it's one of the fun parts.
Yeah.
So you create a map of the existing house. And what I mean by that is that I'll survey the house, measure almost every inch, and get a good idea of the structural components. And lay those out within the existing plans. And from there, now I have something to deconstruct and work in the remodel or the addition or the space planning changes. But only then.
Right.
So that's something I think that myself and I would say my colleagues as architects bring to the table right out of the gate. We've got to know everything about the existing conditions because it's going to affect every decision we make about helping them create this new addition or living space.
Yes. Yeah.
Because there's connections that have to happen.
Right.
There's demolition that has to be coordinated.
Right.
And if you don't know what's there to the best of your ability without starting to demolish things first to look at it.
Right.
Which is another piece that happens often, right?
Yeah.
You make assumptions about traditional residential construction, and all of a sudden you remove a wall and there's something different there.
Right.
Because it was built in the 30s or the 40s or the 50s or the 90s.
Yes.
So I think that's the summation of getting up to that first design.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's great. What is like your favorite part? When does the twinkle start coming to your eye? When does stuff start to click for you?
There's a couple parts during the process. The initial consult is always a blast.
Yeah.
I get excited to hear families get excited about what they need and why they're doing the things they're doing. Additions and remodels, that is. And we brainstorm during that first meeting.
Yeah.
We walk through the house and we point and we discuss the challenges and the opportunities just in that first moment of absorbing everything that's possible, and also evaluating what could be challenges. That's another thing that I think design professionals bring to the table. The ability to visualize beyond the veneer of what's happening in the bones and know fairly quickly what needs to happen in order to make the project successful. And that all comes out within the first interview. If not, it'll surface during the initial concept presentation. Because after that point, when you've drawn the house and you've measured every inch and you're familiar and intimate with that house, now you know what's going on really. To the best of your ability.
So what are your I feel like over the years and in these conversations, I love the consult too. What are the questions that you're asking to draw people out? I feel like lots of times I come in, people already have like a Pinterest picture or something, but the Pinterest picture doesn't always represent like what they actually need or what they're going to run into. And so crafting questions to try to pull them out to get kind of to the heart of what they're going for. Have you found like line of reasoning for asking them like, hey, what's motivating this, or kind of?
Well, that is one of the first questions. So why do you need this new kitchen? Why do you need this master suite bath or a master suite on the first floor? Why do you need another bedroom altogether? And generally, they're pretty straightforward. Well, our family's growing, or we're empty nesters, and we want to make this more our space. Now that the family's moved out, we're going to stay here for the rest of our lives. In some cases, it occurs living in place, aging in place is a consideration. So instead of the parents who had a suite on the second floor, they're getting a little bit older because their kids are gone and grown and have their own families. They want to live on the first floor. But not move completely. So there's all kinds of reasons of why people decide to stay in their family homes. Memories, or maybe the market doesn't allow them to really sell and move to find what they really need or want. So all kinds of motivations.
I think that's so essential, because I think if you skip the design phase in whatever project you're going on, lots of times you're missing those questions. You're not having somebody ask you those questions. You're having somebody say, yes, I can do that, but without asking the questions of why are we doing that. And it seems to me like that's a big part of the value of the design process, is you're getting to the heart of, why are we enlarging your laundry room? Like, what are you going to do in there? And often there's I want to do a dog wash station, or I want to do, and so getting to the heart of, okay, if you want to do that, then that's going to impact these other things, and sitting with it for a while and playing with, we can expand over here, but that's going to affect your life over here. And how is that going to make you feel? And I love, for me, I just love watching people as they start to click, like, oh, I can see the value now of asking these questions and sitting with it a minute instead of just jumping right into solution mode,
Correct. And I'm going to expand on that. So the process, the design process, is exactly that, but even more so, it's organic. I can't really admit that I have a prescription or a prescribed approach of drawing out a bunch of answers that are then going to inform me of a more in-depth level of program consideration when I'm creating a design for them. I'd rather just let them dump everything in their hopes and dreams and dissatisfactions with how they're living now in their house. So that I can just let that flow in terms of a proper solution. But there's another piece here that I wanted to touch on, and that is, you mentioned seeing them click in the things that we're bringing to the table as designers, and our insight and observations about the feasible or the potential. But there's also a process of communication that's happening over the design phase. So we're bringing a language to the table from our profession. And a good number of my clients over the years have some savvy about that. But there is still the breakdown of what they have in their mind as the solution,
Right.
what now the designer or the architect professional has in their mind as the solution,
Right.
and coming to that meeting point of revealing what each is thinking in the drawings.
Yes. Yes.
And so the drawings becomes the format of the language.
Right. The
To
negotiation.
finally understand what we're each thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, the design professional, architect, engineer comes to the table understanding the nuts and bolts of what can be done. The client has an aesthetic and they have a space idea.
Right.
And they have a layout and how they want to live in that new addition or remodel. And so it's a constant back and forth.
Yeah.
Many times with my clients, I've gone through several iterations
Right.
of tweaking and massaging. And even at that point, when you get down to a design, a concept, a 3D model that the client can get their head wrapped around and they're all in, there's still another layer, and that's making it real.
Right. Right.
So that then it can be translated by the construction industry.
Right. We're back to the steel beam.
That's right. That's right. So, we kind of just danced around a tangent there, but I think the point there is that the process, the way I work, is not really prescribed.
Right.
There are just some natural questions about the why, when, and how, but the organic side of it is actually another exciting part for me.
Yeah. Yeah, the discovery. You're discovering with the client kind of the best solution. I feel like lots of times you're taking that step with them with your bag of tricks and your expertise, but they're coming with their experience and their lifestyle.
Correct.
And those two things. So what have you found, like, when you head into that? Because communication, I feel like, is everything that, we're communicating the whole time. We're communicating when we first meet them, and then we have to communicate through the entire process until we finally create something that can then be built or created. So everything is communication. So when you go and you've met with a client and you've done that initial consult, and now you've drawn it and you've got your initial drawing, how are you thinking about bringing them into the journey you've just been on? So you went out, you measured the house, you heard their needs, and then you went on a journey. You were like, drew up solutions. You're like, hey, this solved, and now you got to go present to the client. So how are you headed into that meeting? How are you thinking about communicating to the client what you kind of discovered or came up with?
Well, let me think about that for a moment. So there's at least two parts in terms of preparation. One is the simplest, and that is the checklist, the program they gave me from that initial consultation. I skipped a step, but I'm going to come back to that. So in terms of, I'm going to say this now. So there's a proposal that happens between the initial consult and then the feasibility study, which is phase one. That proposal is a capture of the program, as well as my fee structure and the deliverables that I'm going to be presenting to them through our process of being engaged. So that being said, once I've gotten through the feasibility study and the initial existing conditions development, and I'm ready to present that initial concept, I've got that proposal which has mapped out in detail everything that they said that they want to have in the project. So during the discussion and presenting the drawings, I'm checking the boxes. And then from that point, we can discuss some of my insights of what I've brought to the table of how I've created this new design for them. So after all the boxes are checked and they see what happens with that, so it's kind of presenting the big kahuna. I use that term quite a bit. I use that term quite a bit. That first out-of-the-box design is everything they wanted. That can work. Sometimes that has a play, again, back to the site development thing of restrictions. But so we talk about the big kahuna, and I walk them through the whole space and all the things that are going to have to happen with the existing house to make the new design work. And at that point, I sit back and let them talk, because this is their first time seeing plans, three-dimensional models, elevations, all the things visually that they need to connect my concept to the solution. And it's amazing every time they lay their eyes first time on it, they've got all kinds of things to say.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you can imagine.
Oh yeah.
They finally see their idea, their desires manifested in something semi-tangible.
Right. Yeah.
And the conversation just flows from there.
Yeah.
Well, what about this? What about that? And then we talk about those details.
And the negotiation begins.
The negotiation begins of what stays and what goes, what changes.
Yeah.
And those are the three things. What stays, what changes, and what goes away.
Yeah.
And then at some point after that, we may make several iterations to get to a point where they're okay with the design and they like how things are shaping up. The next piece is to put some numbers to it.
Right.
Before moving into the final phase. But that's, going back to the question where you asked, what are the most exciting parts?
Yeah.
So consultation, initial presentation of the design.
Yeah.
And then getting budget numbers back is a real checks and balances.
Is that an exciting part or is that a
well,
gut check part?
it's a little bit of a nervous part.
Yeah.
I do not claim to specialize in understanding cost per square foot. There's avenues to understand the median of that based on home sales and new construction, but with additions and remodels, with existing homes, you have another layer there, and that is dealing with the existing conditions, demolition, retrofitting, and then refinishing after the construction. So there's other layers built into that process that overall it still ends up being cheaper than buying a new home or even building from ground up.
Right.
But that's when the general contractor steps in as part of the team.
Yeah.
And if she are involved on the front end and they understand what's coming, then they're already processing the scope of the work.
Right.
And they're able to get tighter numbers together for that client to consider the feasibility of the project.
Right.
And that's a big step. That's a big step, is because it's a meeting of reality.
Right.
Of
dreams are great.
This is what we think it's going to cost.
Right.
And we have friends tell us that they got theirs done cheaper.
Everybody
came in under 10% or 15% of the budget. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
But more often than not, it's a bit of a shock.
Right. Yeah. Very, very rarely, I feel like, are people like, oh, that's fantastic. And mostly like, oh, wow. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And so that's a checkpoint in the process or the project.
Right.
That's another part of the feasibility.
Right.
So the first part is checking the property allowances and the code allowances. The second point is then the budget check-in.
Right.
And at this point, we're still fluid on the design.
Absolutely, yeah.
Nothing has been laid down in stone, quote unquote.
Right.
Making changes in drawings is way cheaper than making changes in the field.
Yeah.
So we work from that point. If the budget can be tweaked and the client can make adjustments, then we move forward to the next phase.
Right.
Otherwise, it's a hold. And that's happened.
Yeah. Sometimes reality is just changes a perspective, the return on investment and all that.
Right. And I'm glad you said exactly that, because I've had clients currently and in the past put projects on hold during the design phase because the market was so out of whack. Since 2020, all we've heard, at least for the first couple of years after that, was how the cost of materials were just going through the roof. And now that we have other implications of cost with tariffs for imported goods, construction goods that we use all the time, wood, 2x4s, all those things, the market's still imposing its heavy hand on the cost of construction.
Right.
And, there's also insurance for general contractors and, there's so many factors that play in. So to get a client on board with all those pieces and parts about the cost of a project early on, before I get too far into the design development, is important. It really is. The last thing I want to do is put all this time and effort into creating something that is a viable set of construction documents and have a client pay for that.
Right.
And then not realize it.
Yeah. Not be able to get it in the real world.
Correct.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I just love like being able to look a client in the eye and be like, look, this is all about your confidence and your control. Like I want you to be in control of the entire process. So by spending all this work and doing all this on the front end, you're able to get to that point and be like, you know what? We decided we need to change it, or we need to, lay off these materials, or maybe not add this many square feet. But whatever we discover during that first initial phase, kind of the second feasibility study, is, I feel like, so beneficial to them, because then I'm like, hey, we can pause, we can phase, we can, we can scale back. There's so many different levers that you can pull at that point. So I feel like, I just love kind of like giving the clients that gift of like not getting something that they can't afford, not discovering that they're in way over their head, but having that information all on the front end. And then they can, like you said, it's easy to change a drawing and still in the drawing phase. So what was, I'm gonna pivot here because I love hearing the sort of the origin stories, but what was 8-year-old Steve going to be when he grew up?
Oh, wow. 8-year-old Steve.
Yeah.
So let me think about that for a minute. So 8 would be about 4th grade. First was 6th, 3rd, 4th grade. Oh my gosh. I don't think I gave it any consideration. I was too busy.
A fireman or
I was too busy swimming and riding my bikes. And having fun with my friends, exploring the local park in the creeks. And no, I was oblivious.
You were completely oblivious.
I didn't think about that probably until I was well into high school.
Okay.
Actually,
did you like in the high school phase? What was that kind of like career discovery path? Is there like you have like guidance counselors, or was it just you just like trying stuff out?
No, you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
So my junior year at St. X, I was called in for a consultation on career path in college.
Yeah.
And I can't remember my counselor's name, but he was wonderful. He looked at my report card and my coursework at St. X, and he said, I see that you're fairly strong in math and science, and you've taken some technical drawing skills. Have you ever considered architecture? Out of the blue. Just out of, I said, no, I have not.
Wow.
And he said, well, give it a look-see.
Yeah, yeah.
And at that moment, he also offered a referral to talk to an alumni, Glenn Hubbock.
Okay.
Rest his soul, who has given this community decades of excellent service and guidance in the field of architecture in his practice. As it turned out, I was lifeguarding with his daughter, Tara, at Lakeside.
Okay.
And so it was just a match made.
That's crazy.
So I went and had dinner one evening with Glenn and his family, and he was wide open with his house and inviting me over. And we had a discussion.
Okay.
And I don't recall exactly if he brought out some work that he had done, but he was so passionate and in love with what he did. Seeing that and then hearing some of the details of education requirements and what he does on a daily basis at the time was exciting.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was it.
Really?
That was the hitch pin.
That was all it took, huh?
That's all it took. So I'm sure I came home after that to my parents' house and said, I think I want to go be an architect.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's normally takes people a few tries, to get to that one thing that they're going to end up doing.
Well, what's funny, as a backstory to that meeting with Glenn and even just the push to go that direction, we did some kind of aptitude testing in high school, and I guess it was some kind of national format, but it was supposed to give you an idea of what you might be a good fit for in terms of a profession to pursue.
Yeah.
And I remember the top thing was military for me.
Really?
For whatever reason. I don't remember the details.
Is this a federally government?
How that came, might have been. I don't know. But, my dad had served 6 years in the Navy. And, at a young age, never really heard a lot of stories about it. But I knew in my heart that was not a path that I wanted to pursue.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that because I knew what I didn't want to do
Okay.
right out of high school.
You're like, I'll go into architecture.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. That sounds just fine.
Okay.
That sounds exciting and exploratory.
Yeah. So did you then like start interning with them, or where did it go from there? What was your?
Well, the next step was to apply for school. And there were a few options, but only one good fit, and that was University of Kentucky.
Okay.
And so they had an entrance exam that you applied for, and then you went to Lexington and sat in a big room, and you were there for 8 hours, I think, and performed these multiple sections of the test, from writing to drafting to hand drawing. Really can't remember all the aspects of the test. It's been so many years ago. And then the university, the College of Architecture, would choose 95 students out of all the applicants that took the test.
Wow.
To enter into that next freshman year.
Okay.
So I took the test and was number 96.
Oh no.
I was right on the cusp that first year.
Oh my goodness.
So it took me another year. I had to take the test again.
Okay.
But I went into interior design school.
Oh, okay.
At UK.
Yeah.
As a freshman. Thinking that was just going to be a good foundation start.
Yeah.
Just kind of get my head in the game of the design profession. And that was fun. That was an interesting segue that first year. And then the second year I got into the architecture school and proceeded with 5 years of my Bachelor of Architecture there.
Okay.
Exciting. Very exciting 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of good stuff. Had some amazing professors.
What was your favorite class of all the architecture classes?
No, they were all good.
Yeah.
They were all good. They all threaded together to create this comprehensive understanding of me knowing nothing. This was one of the first things we heard.
Yeah.
Showing up to forget everything you've known. We're going back to kindergarten.
Okay.
And it was exactly that.
Really?
Yeah. From photography to painting to the history of drawing to our studio time, creating models and charrettes and storyboards and hand drafting and freehand drawing concepts and sketching to interaction with our studio professors about advancing designs and thinking better about how things go together. It was just the whole enchilada.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
It continues to be.
Did you like leave it equally like passionate about it, or were you kind of, I know architecture school is tough. So were you tired by the end of it, or were you still just like, let's go get more education? What was your?
Well, that's a very good question. I evolved over those 6 years there through my choice. And once I got my head on straight of why I was going to college to actually get a degree, then I hunkered down and pushed through it. There were many times when it was very strenuous, very difficult. Hours and hours and hours of studio time to meet a deadline,
right?
Which was probably one of the biggest lessons learned. Deadlines,
the deadline.
On creating product, and not just a product, multiple products, a model, drawings, some writing, maybe some demonstration studies of how you got to the final design, showing process and progress. Many early mornings working through studio time to make the deadline for our charrettes, or our design reviews, rather. So you asked me if it was harder.
Or just by the end, were you still like super excited about the school experience, or were you?
I think there's something happened during those 5 years in the program where something clicked and I was committed. That was it. I'm going to see this through. I just couldn't get past the idea that I should or consider abandoning this path. Yeah. Because I really didn't have anything else that I wanted to fall back on. There wasn't any other interest in education path to a profession that I considered. Later, maybe the last couple of years, there was some inkling of engineering. Okay. But my strength in math wasn't that strong.
There was a ceiling to it.
That was going to be a completely different path.
Yes, yeah.
I fell in love with the creativity aspect
Yeah.
of my chosen path as an architect.
Yeah.
Creating a concept of ethereal thought into something tangible
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah.
And not on your own. It's all a collaboration.
Right. Right.
Between you and the client and your design team members, the builder, the interior designer, the structural engineer, all of it matters.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
To create this wonderful design solution.
Yeah, yeah. It's physical world art, you know.
Yeah,
It's
yes.
tangible.
Yes.
It can't just be abstract. It has to also function. It has to have utility.
And the other piece of that too, which is a huge intangible until you're actually in the space, is exactly that: humans being in the space to activate it.
Yeah.
And so architecture itself is the built environment in my mind.
Yeah.
Through my experience of doing additions or models for residential single family homes, and to improve the quality of lives of people by just moving a peninsula out of the way, or maybe a door a little bit wider, or the right window placement, is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's an emotional feeling. It's an experience of our
100%.
human bodies in the space, and how light and sound and texture impacts how we live.
Yeah. Yeah.
How our feet feel on the floor.
Right. And you're going to repeat that experience over and over and over again. You know, you're changing the way that it's literally like the way you live your life. You know, every morning you're waking up and you're living life in this new space. And what a privilege to get to be part of that for somebody's story. You know, what a privilege to be able.
Our homes are our machines for living.
Yeah.
Aside from just being basic shelter.
Right.
And a place to cook foods and sleep.
Cook
food and sleep.
It works,
So just looking at that basic element of what is shelter, and making it better in terms of how we move through it, particularly living with multiple people in a single residence, right?
Yeah.
As a family, that has its own challenges, but it's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. So you graduated. Did you go work at a firm? What did you do when you graduated?
Oh, I'm sorry. To pick up your question about additional education, no. Bachelor of Architecture from UK was and still is a professional degree. I did not have a desire to go on to a master's program. Honestly, at the time, I didn't see the need for it.
Yeah.
I felt that my basic education would only be supported and advanced with real world experience. So the next step was to actually take a gap year,
Okay.
graduate, and travel around the U.S.
Yeah. Yeah.
And blow off the steam and kind of get my head straight about the next path.
Okay.
And so I did that.
What did you go out west? What did you got?
I did a around the U.S. trip.
Okay.
In my car.
Okay.
I was actually working for TGI Fridays at the time, and they had a program called Passport. And if you had been there for 5 years, and I had, as a server, you could pick up, and they literally gave you a TGI Fridays passport. It was signed by your general manager, and you could go to any Fridays anywhere in the world, actually.
Really?
And pick up a shift.
I had never heard of this.
And so I decided to stay stateside.
Okay.
To keep costs down.
Yeah.
And I drove. I did a clockwise loop starting from Louisville, going down south to Louisiana, and then all the way out west to Los Angeles, all the way up the coast to Seattle, and some places in between, Austin, Texas, and Albuquerque, New Mexico, Las Vegas. From Seattle, drove all the way back to Louisville in May of '95 and walked my graduation walk.
Okay.
Because I actually graduated in December of '94.
Okay. Okay.
So then so that took me from February of '94 to May, and then came home for a few weeks to regroup, and then headed up east.
Okay.
And went as far east as Bar Harbor, Maine, and then came down through the East Coast and finished up coming through Gatlinburg back home.
Okay. That is a trip.
hit a ton of cities, and no intention really, other than just having an adventure, was to find if there were other cities that I might want to relocate to.
Okay.
To start my practice.
Yeah.
Meaning become an intern.
Yeah.
For a firm. That trip had a huge impact on that idea. First of all, it wasn't but maybe 2 or 3 weeks in, I decided I'm not going to try to set up interviews while I'm traveling. That's just silly. That's time out of this fun.
Yeah.
And so then there were 2 other moments other than that realization. Coming back in May from Seattle, seeing Louisville skyline as I crossed over 64 at the Ohio, I realized that I was home. I was born and raised here.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people here.
Yeah.
And a lot of people know me and my family name. And the second time was when I went up east and came back and saw the skyline again. I was like, yeah, I'm good.
Must be real.
I'm good. There's really nice people all over the U.S. Every city is pretty much the same for my experience then. And that was encouraging. Yeah. For sure. But Louisville has a very special vibe and flow to it that I've gotten used to. Yeah. And as it turns out, it provided. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're still here. Yeah. Must have worked. So after that trip, then I started putting out the resumes, and I must have interviewed at least with a half a dozen firms until one finally said, "We have a spot for you. Okay. We're going to train you." Yeah. The other ones weren't. We're more interested in having some experience drafting and knowing how buildings really go together. Because that wasn't the core curriculum during my studies. It was about design. Yeah, yeah. Which is good too. But the firm that I first started with was Bay Savola. Okay. They opened their doors and let me in, and it was a wonderful experience. I can't tell you how much I learned within the time that I had with them. It was incredible, and always thankful for that first opportunity. And then after Bay Savola, moved on to another small firm, Barry Prindle and Associates. Okay. Worked for them for a very short stint. And then from there went to Bravura Corporation. Okay. Jim Walters and Dan Church and Joe Daly and a whole good crew of people that I worked with for 5.5 years. Wow. And learned the bulk of what I know today from them. Okay. And that was just amazing. And then hung my shingle out in 2004. Okay. Okay. And then so is it you've said multiple times additions and renovations. Have you intentionally focused just on that, or did you kind of grow into that, or how did that become kind of your niche? Great question. The way it all started, I had a friend, Pat Wissing, Wissing Contracting, who was a builder and is a builder, still working here in town, and was flush with work and needed some help drafting, putting some drawings together, some plans. I said, sounds great. And so we did that for several years, and that was the bulk of what he was doing, additions and remodels. Okay. Probably sure he's done some full homes over his career, but that's where I was introduced to the idea. Okay. So after that seed was planted, like I said, we worked together for several years, and then word of mouth, I started getting some of my own clients, and they ended up being that same type of project work. Yeah. And then once in a while, not many, but once in a while, a full house would come across my plate to my boards. And I created some drawings, and that was very interesting, a little more intense with the idea of starting from zero. Yeah, yeah. But in both cases, or in all those cases, there was probably less than half a dozen over the 20 years. But the clients had a very specific idea about what they wanted. Okay. Either they came to me with some idea plans that they wanted to tweak and manipulate to their own desired layout, or they just had a concept. Yeah. So either they had some plans from somewhere in terms of square footage and beds and baths, or they had some idea from something else. Yeah. And I don't know. I think I just found that I liked the challenge more of working with an existing condition and building onto that. And then a philosophy started building more around how we're living now, or have been living probably since the 90s. New homes have grown in size, and there was this whole push for these large homes with steep roof pitches, and that's all fine. But my philosophy is more around creating a smaller footprint of how we live and being more considerate to resources and how we use them. And in my opinion, an addition on a house that was built in the 40s is a smarter move in terms of materials and resources than building a brand new house.
Yeah.
But I also understand that populations is growing and we're going to have to build more housing.
Yeah.
It's just the way it's going to have to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so the additions and remodel side has become very rewarding over the years.
Yeah.
For my practice in so many ways.
Yeah. Yeah. And would you say you prefer to work in the addition remodel versus empty plot of land?
I do. Absolutely. That's the straight answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I prefer additions and remodels. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk to me about, we were talking before the show about the idea of solutions. And you said you have a Steve definition of solutions. So what's the Steve definition of solution?
Well, simply put, it's the appropriate response to the client's needs. And appropriate, further defined, is meeting their needs and wants. Their needs first and their wants second. The wants are usually what adds to the project cost.
Right.
So the needs are the programmatic spatial requirements for them to expand with their family needs and their lifestyle needs. Yeah, I think that's it. So it is providing the appropriate response to their requirements. When everyone's on board, meaning I'm happy with what I've created and they're happy with what I've provided, that's the solution.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes that takes time to massage the idea, the concept, the presentation of the design. And so maybe that's the quintessential definition. The solution is what reveals itself to be the best solution.
Yeah. Perfect.
Right. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah. So what would be, if you, I keep playing these time travel games, but if you were talking to freshly graduated Steve, what do you feel like is the thing that's changed the most about your approach to design or your approach to architecture in general, in the evolution from the graduate Steve to today?
Okay, so the question is, how do I see the evolution?
Well, so like how
from the graduate Steve to the professional Steve now?
Yeah, kind of how you approach, a client or a project, or just kind of like what your preconceptions of what you're headed into the world to do versus what you do now. So
okay, upon graduation, I had zero knowledge, zero experience of any of that, and nothing preconceived really. Just a little bit of feedback from one or two architect friends that I've come to know over the years. Even some of my professors, that practiced. There wasn't a lot of sharing of the nuts and bolts from my understanding and memory.
Okay.
Maybe there were some conversations, but upon graduating, it was really after that gap year to let everything kind of sink in and understand that I've made this choice to become this professional. So now I need to put all the adventures aside and put my nose to the grindstone. It wasn't until really that first employment that I really got a deeper look into the nuts and bolts of the practice of architecture, the business and the practice of architecture. And there's so much. There's a lot to it. There is a lot to it, and I can't even expand on all the details. But in general, that novice of first year of employment was led in baby steps into the profession, and that's a good way to go. That was a good way to go, to have the right mentors along the way, to have me a part of their puzzle first, or their cog in the machine, to just do drafting details, and then graduate to do larger sections of drawings for the project, and then full sets of drawings for a project under some guidance from a project architect. And then moving through the years, those 10 years of working for firms, of understanding how to put all of that together along with sitting in on client meetings. So it was this step-by-step process that I don't think could have happened any other way. To just dive in and try to do it all at once would have been incredibly overwhelming. And not proper, not appropriate. Really. So that was the value of the internship that was required before I sat and took my test. Is to meet all these requirements and check all these boxes for the Architect Registration Board to sit for this test. It was about acquiring the experience. And, I can't remember how many sections, like 180 sections of detail or of time that you had to acquire working for firms that took hours and hours and hours and years. But it was that process that brought me to a place now of understanding, and it's still, my process is still organic as a business person. As an architect practicing the business of architecture. It keeps evolving. There's no prescribed way, because everybody brings their own thing to the table about how their business needs to be run for themselves. I don't know. Are you, do you use AI a lot in your day-to-day work? Not much? No, not really.
If you used AI a lot, I was going to change my next question, but we'll go to genie in a bottle. We recognize. So if you could describe, if you had to conjure up your next ideal client, so your next ideal job, what would you describe that? If you're going to create I was thinking AI, you're going to create a prompt and say, give me this kind of client and this kind of job, what would that be?
Oh, wow. I think any client that appreciates the value of a design professional, who understands the value actually, and then can appreciate the time and talent and experience and knowledge that has to exist in order to make their project viable and real, is the kind of client that I want to have. But also, I appreciate clients that have done their homework, that understand what they're getting into on some level. I mean, every designer professional is going to be different how they deliver their project and how the personality they bring to the table. So that's a whole other thing about personalities working together. But projects, all of them are wonderful and beautiful. There's nothing really too small. There might be something too big. Maybe. There's a line there. I think I can limit that as a new house. Something I'm just not ready to take on again. Or not willing to. But the challenge of what I've been doing and will continue to do is so rewarding. So I don't really have a prescribed demographic of a client. My fees are adjustable to the project. So that's another thing, right? I don't really look to stay within a range of fees for every project. I like to be organic with my client. And there's a lesson to learn in every project too. So sorry, I can't be more succinct.
No. So I mean, what I'm hearing you say, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but what I'm hearing you say is you're part of design, and what means the most to you is that interaction with the client. And it sounds like you're even more aware of and appreciative of that interaction with the client than of the project itself. You're like, everything you just said was about a connection with a human, and much more so than you had about I want to do $1 million kitchens, or I want to do, pool houses or anything like that. Everything you just mentioned was all related to humans.
Correct.
And I think that speaks a lot about where your heart's at and what you're passionate about, what you're keyed into.
That's so true, and I'm glad you captured that. The relationships that I create with my clients are always special. This is a very intimate, personal experience to go through on both sides. And I'm thinking about how candid the conversations can be with my clients.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And there's a trust there on so many levels. One, I'm being invited in to one of the most personal aspects of their lives, and that is where they live. And so that's the first thing, trusting me to come into the door as a design professional. The second thing is they're sharing with me details of their lives. They're trusting me with those details in their lives. And there's many layers of that I won't go into, but that has to be held with the utmost respect and appreciation. Because it's a privilege. Yeah. It's absolutely a privilege. So the connection with the humans, the clients, is absolutely the most important thing. Yeah. I believe myself and my colleagues included, in Louisville specifically, all have exceptional talent to create a design that will be suitable to a client's needs. Yeah. How the client and the architect get along is important. Right. Absolutely important. Managing and meeting expectations is another piece of it. And so that's a very real part of the conversation. I don't really know these days what people actually think about architects, like what their conjured thought is. Yes. Yeah. You know, is it Frank Lloyd Wright, or is it what's his name from Seinfeld? They pretended to be one. George. Yeah. George. Yeah. Yeah. There's also a breakdown in who's coming to the table on both sides. Right. You know, who is Steve as an architect? Right. What are you going to do for me? Is it going to be worth our time to work with you? Yeah. And I think the simple answer is yes, because of the patience and the dedication involved in getting to know them. Yeah. And allowing them to be comfortable with however they want to present themselves. And that can be challenging sometimes, but it's important. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. No, that's fantastic. Well, we have hit an hour, but I just want to say how much I've enjoyed this. I so much enjoy just your thoughtfulness. I love how your heart's behind everything you say, and I can feel it in the way you approach when we went over your prints together, just in the conversation around architecture and design. And that's why I'm super happy to have you on the show. And I think anybody would be super benefited by having you on their team as they think through a project or even just a dream, just if it's like a concept. So definitely plug Steve wherever possible. Well, thank you, Jake. And I do want to add one last comment here about the difference between levels of designers that I perceive and what I just want to say about what architects can bring. We've been educated to understand how buildings come together. We have had to go through years of internship and study and testing and licensure to understand all those aspects of how a building goes together. That is core competency. The thing that makes us different in how we practice is our own intuition in design and how we create solutions. So that's at the very base level of what an architect brings to the table. We're also able to consider multiple aspects of a concept before any line is drawn on a piece of paper. Sometimes that's how we work through those concepts, but nevertheless, we just have an innate ability to visualize creating solutions. On the other side, you had asked a question earlier on about who should a client go to if they just want to get a project done. Well, sometimes there is an appropriate approach to go to a draftsman, specifically someone who drafts drawings or plans rather, and is not architecturally trained professionally or through a degree program. They're also a viable part of the process of creating designs for clients. So I just wanted to express the value of the striation that we have here in our region of talented individuals that do just that. But the design professional, the degreed architect, structural engineer, we have a very methodical and detailed level approach to our solutions. And what that means is that when it comes to putting together pricing and understanding constructability, everything is in this drawing set.
Right.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Is that we have covered all bases, crossed all the T's and I's. But again, sometimes you just need a simple drawing and maybe an architect is not the right solution.
Right.
I'm saying there's other opportunities out there. To
get
the work done, at least get it started.
Right.
And sometimes it's just availability.
Yeah. I think one thing I've noticed that I would love to, do better in educating homeowners and clients and people who live in Louisville and own homes. But I think all experts and all true professionals respect how complicated construction is. And, it is. And so, there's building science, there's physics, there's structural load, there's design, there's flow, there's layout, there's and finding someone who can help you think through what you need and what you don't need. If you're just going to put a wet bar in a basement, maybe you don't need a full-on architect,
Perfect example.
Yeah, but if you're, but there are, so just, I think, you found an expert when you found somebody who can appreciate the complexity of the project and will help you think through that and isn't pushing you to just get started or isn't ignoring some component of another. There's so many facets to it. And I think what I respect about the professionals that we work with are people who recognize the complexities and they can kind of go through the filter of what is this project and what is the project goals going to expose it to in terms of complexity, and then aligning the correct set of professionals around that to make sure that is completely executed in a way that's going to be durable and safe and structurally sound and enjoyable to use for the lifetime of the homeowner and beyond. And I think that to me is the value of working with professionals, is people that see that, they understand it, and they know how and when to apply which practice and which expertise in a way that ultimately benefits the client.
Man, you summed it up perfect. So I wanted to make two last statements. And I realized that I failed to include interior designers and landscape architects also as part of the team. And that last piece, these hiring professionals on your construction project for your home or whatever it may be is no different than having a financial planner on your side, an estate lawyer, a primary care physician. You are hiring professionals to take care of the most important parts of your life to help you along that path. And it's always a good idea to consider that for the place you live also.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make that statement. I realized that I hadn't included at least the other two that I have interacted with many times over the years.
But what a great example of how complex construction is. I think that
thousands and thousands of decisions to make.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Just so many decisions and all of them matter, accidentally have the sprinklers route into your basement once and you'll realize that all matters.
Sure.
So awesome. Well, our technology is dying. So I guess it's still as grounded. This is a lot of fun though. So
it was.
We'll have it do it again. So
my pleasure. Invite me back anytime.